Hello! I recently had these books printed up, my arthard 2019 books, featuring all the art that I created on Patreon this year. And I wanted to kind of show those off, but at the same time, I'm also going to do sort of a review of my experience using Printivity.com, which is who I had print these books up. Prior to actually doing these books, I've created comic books and had them printed up at Staples and Office Max, and usually the results from that were not that good. So going into this, knowing I didn't know who I was going to use to print the book, so I set everything up in Photoshop as the full 11 by 17 pages. This is 8.5 by 11, but it's a solid page that goes and gets folded over. So I set up everything at 11 by 17, and so I had the front cover and back cover as a single page, and then the rest of the pages laid out in the order that they would have to be printed so that the book would go together. After I saw a video about Printivity, I decided to give them a shot, and found they were way easier to work with than using like Staples or Office Max, especially if I was doing it directly online instead of taking all my files into the place. So Printivity actually has a a template for putting a book like this together, where they want you to do each individual page, like the front cover and the back cover as separate pages, inside cover, and all the way through your book. So every side of a page counts as one page. But using their template probably would have been a whole lot easier if I hadn't already done all the work. So I just went ahead and went with my files, and the only thing I was really concerned about going in was how the file would be handled, since they like to break things up onto 8.5 by 11 pages. But one of my big concerns was along the spine here, if that would actually have a split, like the border would stop on the front and the back and have a gap here. But as you can see, that is not the case. This border goes right across there. And then what I noticed is on the inside, this is the center fold. There's only a very small hairline split right there, and that might even be from the folding. It might not actually be like a printing issue at all, and that's not important at all, really. So it's really good to know that the quality is there, that the books turned out really well. I had these books printed with the cover being, I believe it's 80-pound cover gloss, which is a fairly heavy. It's not quite cardstock, but it is pretty heavy, and it's nice and glossy. And then the actual interior pages, I believe, were 80-pound interior gloss, and they feel great. They're like it's like a real magazine that you might get, maybe actually a little bit heavier. But what I really like too is that my art didn't bleed through from one side to the other. So you've got good glossy inside, nice color, and no bleed through. So it's easy to see each page without any problems. So overall, going through Printivity and having this book printed up was a very positive experience. There were a few minor issues. When I first started using their site, I had some issues with choosing options, where I don't know if the site glitched or something, and I couldn't choose different paper types, or the thing wouldn't update. And then I logged in later, before I actually made my order, and somehow I ended up doubling my order without actually choosing anything. But for the most part, when I was logged in and going through the process of actually, putting the book in and actually ordering the copies, it went smoothly. So I don't know if that was because I wasn't actually logged in. I was signed in as a guest initially, or if it was my internet, or if it was the site. But something to look for. One of the big draws that I had, well, actually, there were two big draws to come to Printivity instead of going to Staples or Office Max. The first was that I was trying to do it all online, and Office Max or Staples couldn't handle the files I was sending to them. They were too big. And Printivity handled them no problem. The second thing was cost. I got twice as many books from Printivity at about half the price that they wanted at Staples or Office Max. And one of the big things about going to Staples and Office Max is that you would not get your print all the way to the edge. There would have been a white cutoff point. And then chances are, at the binding, there probably would have been a big white gap there too. So definitely having the full page bleed was great. Everything in the book came out as I set it up, so I had no issues whatsoever with like color changing or pages being swapped out of order, which is something I have experienced with going to the big name stores in the past, which is why I set these pages up the way I did initially, because I've had the actual people working at the print area swap my pages all around into a weird order, but that was not an issue here at all. Everything came out. Printivity sent me a PDF proof of the book before they printed it, so I could approve that or send it back for revision, and there were no problems. Everything came through fine. Then the one big issue that I did have in dealing with Printivity on this job was that my order status locked at ready for bindery. So when it was time for, after they had printed the book and probably, they probably sent it in for them to fold all the pages and put these staples in, because that's the saddle stitching. It stayed ready for bindery well past the date I was actually supposed to receive my books. But about the time I was going to contact Printivity, they actually contacted me and said, hey, there was a problem and we didn't ship your books out for some reason, and they went ahead and overnighted the books to me from California all the way out here, and I'm on the East Coast, so that, I'm sure that was a fairly big expense on their end, but that was not something I had to pay for. They went ahead and paid to fix that, and so, I mean, that just made one more positive for them. But so, I've already flipped through the book, but to go through a little bit more, inside cover, I have some of the stuff that's available on my Etsy store. An introduction page that I wrote up, talking about the book in 2019 in general. I talk a little bit about the paintings that I did for January. Then, of course, again in February, I talk a little bit about the paint, well, one of them is a painting, one of them is markers. About the paintings that I did in March, and so on. Every month, anything that I did in that month, I talk about in these little text areas. And some months, as you can see, were a lot busier than others. And October was actually my big month because I finished this one big project here and did this drawing for penciljack.com or Pummel. It was an art battle for the month. And Inktober, of course, takes place in October. So these are all my Inktober drawings where I spent anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe 2 or 3 hours on each piece. And so, of course, October got crammed full. November, I didn't get much done. In fact, these two pictures that I have here aren't even finished. One was for the Pummel art battle in November, which I lost because I didn't finish my picture. And the other is my Exodus painting where I roughed things out in Photoshop, and it's very scribbly and sketchy. The last page, I have all of my social media stuff, including the Wix site that I've not actually plugged very much anywhere because it's just a basic Wix site. And my new post office box that I've got for any kind of art-related mail that anybody might want to send me. The back cover is that same photoshopped image of the Exodus painting, which I'm planning on getting done in January of 2020. So this was like a rough workup of the composition layout that I wanted to go with, and I will be refining that and hopefully making a really awesome painting very soon. So yeah, I'm really happy with this book. I really wanted to show it off, and I wanted to share my experience with Printivity. I definitely recommend using them if you have a need to get something printed, because these are awesome. Let's see. Also, I guess I have to make a disclaimer. I have no sponsorship and no affiliation with Printivity other than I was a customer, and I'm very happy with what I got from them. So definitely check them out if you have any need of a printed product. Thanks for watching my video, and I hope to see you in the next one.